Catherine's going to join us, right?
Yes, and that I did not confirm how, so I would have assumed Zoom, but she's not there yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything?
Right.
Okay, it is 5:15 on April 7th, 2025. Call the select board meeting to order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? I just have one, it's very minor. I'd like to move number 17, which is correspondence. I'd like to move that to make that 16, and then we'll put the liquor license down to 17. Do I have a second?
Second.
Harry seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, we've all taken a look there. Approve bills for payment. And well, yeah, let's approve the bills for payment.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 7th warrant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Joe seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. I'll pass this around for other signatures. Are there any questions on the financial snapshot of April 3rd? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much, Lisa. And then we have the warrant. Okay, we've done that. This is a time there for public comment. Does anybody have anything for public comment, which we can take into consideration for future select board meetings? Hearing none. Moving on, planning commission, Catherine.
I did that well, didn't I?
Yes, you did. You planned it just right. Oh, well, you want me to give you a couple more minutes? Okay.
Come on.
Sure, that's fine.
Hello. So thanks for having me tonight. I'm Catherine Dimitruk. I'm the Executive Director of Northwest Regional Planning Commission. And I wanted to come tonight to touch base on two big things. Besides just kind of checking in and saying hello and making sure we're serving you as we need to. I wanted to give you an update on the regional plan and the updates we're going to be doing to implement a new law that was passed last year. And then I just wanted to touch base with you about the contract we have for the zoning administration, DRB clerk and planning commission support services and see if that's going okay. If there's any changes you want to make as part of the renewal.
Okay.
So first, let me give you an update about the regional plan. So first of all, thank you, because you have two regional commissioners who serve on the board of the Regional Planning Commission, and they're very active and wonderful members. And so we want to thank you for that. Andy is our vice chair of our board as well, so really appreciate those appointments. We do also have a transportation advisory committee, and North Hero has a seat that is not filled right now. So if you know anyone who's interested in transportation generally and regional transportation issues and would like to represent North Hero, we'd love to have a representative. So moving into the regional plan. So last year, the legislature passed what's called Act 181, which made sweeping changes to Act 250, the state designation and incentive program, and regional planning. In a nutshell, what the law does now is we will be using the regional plan to help establish Act 250 jurisdiction for housing in certain areas of communities and serve as the boundaries for the state village designation program. So right now, we'll start with the designation program first, because that one's a little bit easier. So right now, North Hero has a designated village. And you got that by developing a map and doing an application that North Hero put together, and we helped you probably. And then you went to a state board, they approved that application, and then you have to renew it periodically and go through that same process again. You won't have to do that anymore. What will happen now is as part of our regional plan, we will map that. And then our regional plan will go to a state board. And when they approve the regional plan, all the designated villages for the region will become approved and will stay in place until we update the next regional plan, and then we'll do it all over again. So you don't have to apply anymore.
Okay.
So that's gone. So that's good. And then the other change it made is to how our regional plans impact Act 250 jurisdiction. So before this law was passed, if you wanted to build 10 housing units or more, you needed an Act 250 permit, regardless of where it was. It could have been like right in the middle of North Hero, or it could have been like on the most important resource lands, you know, somewhere at the edge of a wetland, you needed an Act 250 permit. What this law did is it recognized that in areas that are planned for growth, there should be a different trigger for residential development. So it did an interim change. So right now, in the North Heroes designated village and a quarter mile around that, you could build up to 50 homes without needing an Act 250 permit. It still needs local review. All of the local requirements stay the same. Any other state permits stay the same. So if there's sensitive resource lands or wetlands or shorelands permits, all of those are in place. It's just Act 250 is not needed. Long term, when we adopt our new regional plan, we'll have a land use map just like you do. And we will map your new village area that we just talked about. And we'll also map an area around that, that together, those two could be eligible for that 50 units Act 250 jurisdiction for housing. And the idea really is to reflect the concept that communities plan for growth in certain areas. So let's support that by not having two permit reviews for the same project in those areas that are planned for growth. So right now you have in place these interim Act 250 changes for your designated village center right along here, plus a quarter of acre, which I know goes out into the lake, so it's it's an imperfect solution that was just done on an interim basis. You'll have the option on whether you want to continue that with our regional plan maps. So we'll map the area that's eligible. The select board gets to decide whether you want to, what's called opt-in to continuing that in place. So to continue that interim designation with a slightly different boundary in the long term. So that will be a decision you will have to make. We are gonna take a lot more time to discuss this in detail with your planning commission. And we're going to bring them maps and work with them to come up with the first draft of a map that makes sense for North Hero, both for the designated village as well as any area around that that you might want planned for growth. We'll do a whole public process through the summer. And then at the end of that, the decision is going to be put to you as the select board and all the other select boards in the region. Do you want to opt into that Act 250 jurisdiction change? So we'll be back, or a member of your planning commission will be back to talk to you about that and talk you through that decision.
And the summer meetings are for public input.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, but we are meeting with all the planning commissions in the
Yeah,
region
yeah.
first, because we don't want to go out to the general public with a map that you don't like.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do that first step first. And so we're meeting with your planning commission on the 22nd of this month, to hear and talk through all the details.
So it's opt-in or maintain the 10-unit.
Yeah, so if you don't opt in after 27, when the interim ones go away, it will drop down to 10 units.
Okay,
So that's it in a nutshell. It's a 180-page law, so that was my 5-minute summary. So I hope that was helpful. I wanted to make sure, we're trying to make sure all the select boards in the region know that this is being talked about, know that we're meeting with your planning commission, know that a decision is coming your way.
okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any questions about that?
How does that go? So 50 units, but that's 50 units. 50 units on one particular parcel.
Yeah, 50 units on 10 acres or
Okay,
less. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it could be, a few parcels combined,
Yeah.
whatever, but it's 50 units in total. It has to be on 10 acres or less.
okay,
And that's by one developer,
Mhm. Yeah,
So-
by one applicant.
right? So if you've got, 150 units between, 5 people, you're not gonna have any issues.
right.
And the really cool thing about it, if you have a project that already has an Act 250 permit, is you still get the exemption. So you don't have to amend your existing permit.
Yep.
So I don't know if that affects North Hero as much as some other communities. That's a real benefit.
Is this for multi-unit also?
Multi-unit, it could be any combination.
So it wouldn't be 50 multi-unit.
Correct. Each unit within the building would count toward the 50. So
Right.
you could have 10 5-unit buildings. Not 50 10-unit buildings or anything like that. No. The other thing that the law requires us to do, that I'll mention that we'll also talk about with your planning commission, is it did require us to set housing targets for every community in the region. So the state developed a statewide housing target that you may have seen in the news that basically is looking at if we were to fix our housing market, like the bare minimum, so that it wasn't totally broken, but not thriving. What's the minimum number of housing units we need to make that happen? And if we did that by 2030, and then if we continued that growth into 2050. We're given regional targets from that state member, and then it's our job to take it down to the municipal level. The targets are just targets. There's no penalty ascribed to communities if the targets aren't met, because you as select board members are not in charge of building homes. You can't make somebody build them. It's really a planning tool to give you an idea of if our housing market was fixed, what would North Hero's share look like? And just to have the context for when you're thinking about like your development regulations or your infrastructure planning, just having that in mind. And so for North Hero, your target for 2030 would be 53 housing units. I know, it's a lot.
I think that's a lot.
It is a lot. For 2050, it's a little, so for 2030, it's basically a doubling of your historic growth rate for the last 15 years. And that's the case for most of our communities. When you look, because our housing market is so broken, to catch up, it's a big lift. But when you look ahead to 2050, the target is 159 units. And so that's over the next 25 years, and that's a little more in keeping with your typical historic growth rate.
So housing, so for housing, has there been a delineation there or separation of second homeowners versus primary?
Yeah, when we did our numbers, we actually, when we took the regional number and pushed it down to the municipal level, we looked at the percentage of the housing units that you have in the region, as well as population and growth rates. And we took into account the percentage of second homes and seasonal homes, because you can't just look at like the total number of homes that North Hero has. You have to look at how many are in a year-round basis. The statewide housing targets assumed a percentage of seasonal dwellings. I think it was around 10%, which was the statewide average for seasonal dwellings. I know North Heroes is higher than that, but so it was taken into account.
Okay,
Do they look at usable property at all? Like ag exempt lands, wetlands, that type of stuff?
For the 2030 numbers, we just basically looked at our town's growth rates, and everybody really needed to double. And looked at it that way, because between now and 2030, it's hard to imagine much changing. For 2050, we took 60% of the regional housing target and we allocated it to our large municipal centers in the region. So Swanton, St. Albans, City Town, Enosburg, and the towns that have still a robust infrastructure, water, sewer. And so we took 60% of it and put it in those communities. And then the rest was spread out. So we didn't take your question into account exactly, but we kind of did the opposite. Like we looked at where growth is planned and put most of it there.
just because, well, this area here, I mean, there's a lot of ag
Mhm.
that's going on around the village,
Yeah,
and that is our so-called village district.
right. Your village area, your village district, yeah,
Yeah.
between that and shorelands, it takes out a lot of and wetlands, it
Right.
takes out a lot of your developable land. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
What
so
about, and I forget what it was called, but it's like an auxiliary building with 900 square feet, does that count?
It does.
So
So-
of this 53, you could have that.
Yes, the number is agnostic about the type. So it could be 53 apartments over garages. And we'd be like, yeah, that's awesome. Or it could be, 53 senior housing units. Great.
And when
It's,
does it start?
counting in 24.
Oh, so those who are already.
Yeah, we'll count them. Get you a year jump. Yeah. And it's, it's an imperfect art of trying to take this statewide number to the regional level, to the municipal level. So we're really looking at it as, to think of it as like an order of magnitude. We don't actually think 53 new homes are going to be built in North Hero in the next 5 years. That's probably highly unlikely. But when you think about is it possible? And let's look at your land use regulations, look at your infrastructure, and what would happen if you had 50 new homes.
well, as long as the state doesn't hold us to it there, and then we get penalized if we don't have the 53.
Right now,
So,
all I can tell you is right now, I haven't heard anybody talking about that.
Okay.
I've heard it only as a planning tool, as a target.
all right. Well, thank you.
So that's the regional plan.
All right.
Okay, and then I know Andy is here, the planning commission, and yeah, others here. So just wanted to touch base with you about the contract that we have with you for the zoning administration and development review board and planning commission services, and any feedback you might have about how that's going, and are we continuing, and just want to have a conversation.
Well, I would rely on the planning commission and the DRB as far as your guys' feelings there is how this is going, because the select board doesn't have a whole lot of contact necessarily there with our zoning administrator, you know. So, sure, I would love to have you comment.
I can. We think it's going well. She got thrown in, Dale, into a tough year and a tough situation at the start. I think there was a sharp learning curve for her, but she's been extremely receptive to suggestions and she works hard and I think she's doing a great job. We're very pleased with the contract as it is.
And Andy?
Yeah, I'm in a kind of unique position as chair of the planning commission. I kind of oversee her efforts. And as assistant zoning administrator, I work for her. So. I could say she's a real hard boss. No, I agree with Diane. I think it's worked out really well. No question, you know, there was a learning curve involved, but she's really taken the job on. I think she's done great. As far as I'm concerned, we should continue it. And I'd like to hear from anybody on the select board that may have any thoughts at all.
No, I'll chime in there. My dealings there with Danielle have been very, very positive. And we still have to have some more talks along with Diana. But anyway, no, all my interactions there have been very positive there with Danielle. So.
Yeah, I've had some limited professional experience. Quickly seeing documents turned around that I need. I think she's responsive and efficient, and my interactions with her while serving as a member of this board have also been positive. I think she is responsive and engaged, and she takes the job quite seriously. So it's, I think but good things for me.
And might I add here too, that I think being part of the NRPC, it's also a way there for our planning commission to potentially, if you want to say, tighten up the bylaws or to make them more specific so that there is no, it reduces the so-called interpretation level, you know, of the bylaws. And I would hope there that continues, you know. Yep, go ahead.
A question and a comment on that now that Catherine's here. As you're probably aware, we are planning commission working on some clarifications, you know, some issues that have come up over the last year or so that we think need to be clarified. My question to Catherine, can we just go ahead with these, what I consider pretty minor changes without having to worry about the new regional plan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll be reporting back to the select board here in the next couple of months, probably with our recommendations for some of these clarifications.
Very good.
Right.
Well, and I'll say from our perspective, we love it for almost that same reason, but the opposite that you were talking about, because we get so many calls from technical assistance from other zoning administrators in the region, and it's great for us to have a staff person who's actually doing the job at the local level and can answer those questions, not in theory, but having actually done it. So
Yeah.
it's really, we like it too.
Good.
Great.
Yeah. So we'll continue to, I mean, you've got to make your decisions, obviously, but I wanted to make sure I checked in myself. And
Nope, thank you. Thank you very much.
There's another committee that we don't have a representative on, which is the broadband initiative, and I was just curious, does it look like funding is gonna keep coming for that? Does it look, should we get more serious about that?
Well, they do have awarded funding to do
Yeah,
the
yeah,
work.
yeah.
I can't guarantee it won't be
Yeah,
clawed back.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I just,
But the planning's going
the
ahead.
planning's going ahead. They've got a plan to do the build out. Everything's moving forward. So,
So there still is a plan there. I mean, interest and,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So now we just have to find somebody, a lucky soul.
Yes.
Step on up.
I'm seeing, so it's really
Yeah,
exciting.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Any other questions there for Catherine?
All right, well, thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to Parks and Rec. Gene, there you are.
I sent a little blurb, we wanna prepare the railroad bed, and we're gonna go over the, looks like we're gonna go over the 3,000 mark for the policy. We're looking for approval, we have the money in our budget to do this, because we planned it in last year, and so we'd like to go ahead and go up. Potentially up to 4,000, because I think it's gonna be a little higher, than 400 initial quote.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed repair of the railroad bed at P lots for $4,000 or less.
Second that.
We have a motion from Harry, a second from Joe. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Corinne, I signed this here anyway, there with our document here, that's going back to the zoning. Yeah. They did the 17th day of June. Oh, that's the old one. Excuse me. The old one with the new figures now, right? So we need a. I could have sworn I signed that, Lisa.
What's that?
The agreement there with
NRPC.
the NRPC.
Oh, yes.
The zoning administrator got that?
Yeah.
I don't think we've got.
No, that's.
Yeah, we don't have it.
renewal.
Oh, we don't have the new one
Yeah.
yet. Okay, this is the old one.
It'll be
Okay.
coming.
All right. Okay. When did we grab that coupon? Okay, E911 coordinator, Mr. Ayers, you are up.
Thank you. Here I am. I would like to introduce you to Russell Lane, North Hero, Vermont. As you all well know, in driving back and forth on Route 2, as you're leaving downtown or just before you're getting, you have been watching this house being built since winter. This one-story house with mobile home over here. You've been watching this grow up. Well, it looks like it's more than half done, and I hope that that's true. But anyway, that turns out to be the third building on a side road. There are two houses there, and they became part of Four Winds Lane, being two houses. But as I explained to you last time I was here, according to the regulations of the state, once the third house arrives, it has to become a road on its own. And so I was informed of this and went and did a little research. And so, indeed, and I hate to do this because the gentleman who's building the house just changed the number. I gave him a number when they moved there, and he's gonna have to change it again just months later, but that's the way it is and all. So anyway, Russell Lane. This is a blast from the past regarding North Hero. I got this from the inside of the last history book written about the North Hero, and I just copied that. But in 1871, there was a man named Charles Russell, who was actually a member of the Select Board of North Hero. He was also postmaster and a farmer, and he lived near the intersection of Route 2 and Route 2 and well, I'm having a senior moment here.
Station Road?
Station Road, yep. Not the brick house that's there now, but I suspect a little bit further where the garden is or beyond. Is where in the middle, 150 years ago, he was living, and a farm on, and the road, of course, was two things with grass in the middle all the way down in those days. And across the road, at a time when the lake was not important, it was his land, as you can see that was marked out there. And so, because he was a fairly important person at his time, and all, I had no other suggestions at all. I've decided to name it Russell Lane in honor of the gentleman who actually had a farm on that road where the houses are now, all along in there. It was all farmland. So it will be Russell Lane. What will happen is that I will notify the citizens in the next week or 10 days. Not, I'm gonna have it be official as of July 1. The people will be notified, the 3 people will be notified officially. I'm gonna notify them unofficially this week. And officially, they will be notified 6 weeks from, it'll be the middle of May, 6 weeks before it happens on July 1. And I'm gonna let them know that I'm aware that this is a royal pain, that they're gonna have to change their, but it also is the rule of the state. The state expects. It, if there's 3 buildings, then it has to have its own name. For the safety, for the fire trucks to get there, et cetera, et cetera. Okay?
All right, super, thank you.
Very well
Yeah,
done.
yeah. This was 4 Winds, right? And that's what's,
It was 4 Winds Lane.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
and because it's just, you go 4 Winds, there's
Yeah.
a left right down
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And so, but now, as soon as that left goes,
Oh, okay.
it's gonna be its own little road.
Oh, okay, good.
So,
Good choice with names.
yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, can they change it?
No, I didn't even consult them. Because for one thing, I think some of them are not year-round people.
Right,
And I
well,
like,
I'm just throwing that out there, cause
They
you
could
never
ask-
know
they
if you
could
get
petition
pushback,
or
you
they-
know?
well, if they wanna change it and push back, I would say go before the select board. Bring it to their attention, whatever they decide, I work for them.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
You're very welcome. Take care, ladies and gentlemen.
You too. You want this for the minutes?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay, notice of the PBRA grant. PBRA grant risk assessment questionnaire, which has been filled out and attested to by the chief financial or chief fiscal officer, Lisa Keyworth, and apparently the chief officer. So, anyway, I'll take a motion there to approve this, even though we did sign this.
I'll make a motion to approve or ratify the risk assessment questionnaire that was dated March 18th, 2025.
Do I have a second? Claire seconds. Any further discussion?
It had a short deadline.
Yeah. It was, yes,
Very quickly.
I figured that this was an emergent final.
Yeah, it was.
so,
That's why.
all right, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay. Public Works. Approve the TA 60. Tracy, you wanna just let us know if you know when it's in here?
I just got together with Lisa to go over the numbers.
Yeah,
Plug them in.
okay,
Yeah,
I have faith in her about what she does.
okay.
It's due 60 days after the passing of the budget,
Okay,
so it's an annual.
annual thing, yep,
and our values of class 2 and 3 roads have not changed year over year, or have they had?
Change every year.
They do change
Tracy
every year.
gets that information to him.
Okay.
Yeah, they do change.
okay. All right, any other questions on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the PA 60 presented at our meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I'll give that to Tim there. He was a little louder. He was a little louder than Claire. Okay, so any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Are we all supposed to sign this one?
Well, I think we have a clean, is that a clean sheet? Yeah, this
I do
is
have
one.
the clue, sorry.
Okay. Here we go. Listers, reappraisal update. And by the way, how was your trip to Royal?
It's very informative.
Yeah.
Learned a lot about the inner workings of Montpelier in the last several days.
Good.
Then, yes.
You have my sympathy.
Thank you. It's pretty interesting. All I can tell you is nobody knows what's gonna happen.
Oh, great.
Not a single.
That's good to know.
Short of calling the governor, I pretty much talked to everybody that I
Yeah.
possibly could.
Okay,
But
and it's still a big question mark.
it's still, yeah, I can tell you, which is what everybody's saying, change is coming, things are changing. So several weeks ago, I brought you the contract, I sent you the initial draft, which had going to eliminate assessors and listers in the town.
Yeah.
That's all changed. Yeah, and it changes every day. Even what came out on Friday is different today. So all I can tell you is that initially that bill had dates to become effective on January 1st, 2027. That's now been changed to January 1st, 2030. So it would not affect our rate if we were to move this contract that we're sitting on.
Sounds like the school plan.
Yes, that's exactly. Well, it's been tied to the school plan. It's tied into that mega bill with
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
education refinance or reform, finance. So,
So at this point, it seems like your recommendation is that we should probably execute the Tyler Technologies contract.
I don't think we have any other choice. You know, as of January 1st, 2025, we're ordered to reappraise every 6 years. That's a given. That's a law that went into effect a couple of years ago as part of Act 68. That's not going away. And everybody, the tax commissioner was there today in South Royalton, and everybody agrees with the 6 years. So we're on a 6-year cycle. And the idea is to get a relationship with a reappraisal firm and just book it, 6 years out. Tyler Technologies, I've checked references, I've checked everybody, St. Albans Town, St. Albans City. I just found out today that St. Albans Town, the assessor, used to be the assessor in North Bureau. Bill Hillman.
Hinman, right? Yeah, Hinman Associate, or yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's been great, gave me all kinds of information, but did work with Tyler Technology prior to John Vickery, who would be the lead project overseer. And he didn't have great things to say about Tyler, but he absolute complete faith in John. And now that John is running the team, everybody has great things to say about him.
okay,
So
well, that's good.
I just don't think we haven't had any other offers. We did hear from a company in Middlebury that said we're not coming up that far.
Yeah.
Being a small town, being where we're located.
Well, we came really close to hitting the mark anyway on this, anyway, with the total price, right? I mean, it's 153,
Yeah.
153,000.
And it's
So,
about what everybody else is saying. It's about what everybody else is running.
right,
The nice thing about Tyler is they're not forcing us to change software application. Brand Isle has a contract with Patriots and they had to change their software.
Hmm.
Their assessing software, which is an additional expense and
that could be.
additional work and time. And Tyler's not requiring that. They'll work with Nemrick.
okay. Super. Okay. Well, that's your update. That is good.
You wanna,
Do we need a motion on this?
do we wanna approve the contract or we wanna have that on the next?
So
one?
we don't have the contract. I guess we tell Tyler that we're interested in moving forward and then they draw up the contract. We take it to Mike Tanner and kind of start that process.
And let Mike go through it, make sure nothing changes. Yeah, okay,
Well,
super.
need a motion on that. I'm happy to make.
So yeah, why don't we have a motion on that as far as to proceed?
I'll make a motion that we confirm with Tyler Technologies that we'd like to move forward with them and we'd ask that they would present a contract for our review.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Claire seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
So as a second part to that, as I'm learning as part of the delinquent tax collector, I, as assessor, cannot retain town council without your permission. So I guess I would need a motion to retain Mike Tarrant for the contract overview.
So do I have a motion on the floor here? Somebody wants to make that motion?
I'll move to authorize Lisa to contract with Michael Tarrant about the contract.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Blair seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, you're allowed to speak to Michael.
Joe, were you that second?
Claire.
Claire? For the contract? Who
Yes.
was the
Claire
second?
was the second.
Claire, thank you.
Just throw up a big question mark when you.
Right over my head,
We'll
Ping,
pause.
like a light
Yep,
bulb.
yep.
Yep.
Okay. Back to Lisa again, Ritter, Sullivan and Powers audit cover letter. And then the management letter.
So after 9 months, we finally have the final audit and it's sitting right there. Claire and I both have been going through it. I still have some pages to go through. You have your audit.
Well, I thank you very much there for, because the report looks,
Yeah, Claire and I talked today. There's no recommendations, which I'm gonna ask Chad about, but there was nothing, you know, that he recommended.
that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure he didn't forget.
Oh, okay.
There was something else out there. that-
Are you sure you didn't find one thing wrong?
All right. Well, job well done there, Lisa.
Great job.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was all emailed to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you.
Yeah.
You get the full.
have it right there? Is that what I see?
No, I do have, I probably have.
It's
right
huge.
there. Yeah, it's right here.
Oh,
Yeah, we got the
that's the
final,
final.
the paper copy.
No, I've seen
You've
it.
seen it? It's like 57 pages.
That's pretty amazing.
Okay. And now we're back to Lisa again. Delinquent tax collection, authorized use of lawyer for tax sale and collection of lawyer fees not to exceed 15% of delinquent taxes.
Yeah, so a delinquent tax collector, I can't retain counsel, but on counsel, it has to be a motion. If the tax sale was ever appealed, it could be that it wouldn't be legal because I retained counsel and didn't get approval from you, so. Looking for
Okay,
an actual motion and that we can collect up to 15% in fees.
I'll make a motion to authorize the delinquent tax collector to retain the town attorney for tax sales and the collection of attorney's fees not to exceed 15% of delinquent taxes.
do I have a second?
Second.
Joe, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Just had one change that happened last week after I had done this for the packet. My guess is the Butler Island property's gonna come off. They always are on and then they always pay at the last minute.
One of those is off already, isn't it?
No,
No.
no, they had 2 properties on
Oh.
Butler Island. They paid one in full, so.
Okay,
But the second one, I'm sure. But we had another property that had entered into a payment plan.
Yeah,
So that would take them off the tax sale process, but they haven't made the first payment that was due last week.
that's the Maple Ridge.
No, it's Lakeview Drive. I didn't even list it because
Oh,
we had a payment plan and then last week we missed the payment, which throws him back into the tax sale process.
okay,
But I'll update you as we get closer. We can't do anything until May 21st, when they become a 1-year delinquent. So
Yeah.
Okay,
okay,
I'll update you as we get closer, but
right, because the last installment is May 20th, right, so,
you were in, yeah, so May 21st, we can actually start that tax sale process.
okay. All right, all right, I think, well, all in all. Numbers there. In bed for a town that's assessed very high. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Okay. Are we caught up yet, Corinne?
Yep.
Okay, because I believe you're up here. Zoom procedures. We have new procedures.
Yeah, so following the Zoom bombing, we updated our Zoom settings to meet best practices for ensuring it doesn't happen again. And I sent out documentation to all boards, asking them to do two things. Discuss how each board would like to enact the Zoom procedures. Basically by determining if they're gonna offer a remote option first, and then if they are, designating a Zoom facilitator.
Okay, and any feedback?
As far as from the boards?
Yeah.
No, everybody seems to have taken this very seriously. I've had some questions, you know, each board's a little different in what they provide or how they operate. So far, the majority of boards that have met since that document was distributed have decided to offer the Zoom option. The only one that hasn't is the Cemetery Commission.
Okay. All right,
Do you want a motion and appointment on this at this meeting?
Sure. I don't know if
well,
motion
the
is
Zoom
necessary.
facilitator is gonna be a different one with different committees, correct?
Yeah, well, not all committees have a paid clerk, and even ones with paid clerk, it's not necessarily recommended best practice, so it depends on how stringent or concerned you are. Like, I haven't watched Zoom this whole time, I've been taking minutes, and now I'm having a discussion, like, you can't really participate in a meeting and be a dedicated Zoom facilitator. So the more tasks you ask your clerk to handle, the less likely they are to adequately manage
So
Zoom.
my,
So-
and I'll chime in, and you probably know exactly where I'm going with this there, that this is going to basically lead to costing more money.
I mean, potentially, I mean, I would like to think, I would like to hope that this is a one-off situation. Having changed all of our meeting IDs was arduous. It took me about half a day, you know, to just, you know, you update all the IDs and then you're updating all of the calendar settings and then you're letting all the board members know, and we're reviewing all of their agendas as they go out and making sure that all that information is scrubbed from the website. It's just a whole bunch of little things that add up, but I I think that updating those are a good first step, and I think that having the waiting room is gonna really,
Help.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I mean, I know that we had discussed this before there, and also with Lisa there, as far as like in the waiting room. So you can let somebody in from the waiting room. If their screen is blank or whatever, you can say, state your name. Yeah, well, you know,
Yeah,
can we
yeah,
see?
yep.
And I think that in itself would be a big deterrent for somebody to try to photo or Zoom, whatever the hell this
Yeah.
thing's called.
Yeah.
So,
What is tough, you know, when we first transitioned to Zoom, the LCT put out some best practices for presenting Zoom bombing, and I had set us all up for those settings. And over time, having never had any Zoom bombings, boards would say, hey, I want this feature, or I want that feature, and I'd slowly kind of backpedal to allow them. And so the Zoom bombing happens, and I went in and it's Fort Knox in there, and we're already backpedaling. Like, I changed the settings after the library meeting because they were not able to share their screen. And okay, well, you know, there are boards that are just like, we absolutely need to share a screen, or else there's no point in having a Zoom option. So, okay, I've adjusted that setting. And so I see this is difficult because, you know, safety and ease of use are always on a scale and a balancing act. And the more safe something is, the less user friendly it is. So it's us as a town trying to determine where we're comfortable landing. And being aware that I think this is basically a good reminder. Because the other thing that happens in addition to just ease of use is technology changes so fast. Like the settings, sometimes I go in there, I don't know why this feature, why is my screen doing what it's doing? And I go into Zoom and, oh, they updated something and it resets a setting, and it's a constant whack-a-mole. So I don't want us to go over the top crazy with. Like, I
Yeah.
think making me your Zoom facilitator is fine, but there also needs to be an awareness and maybe a second person looking out for something to happen. So I can.
Right now, there's nobody else on.
Yeah, so I can participate and, take minutes and,
Sure.
Yeah, I think we took a good step. I mean, I guess the big thing there, if nobody else, well, if everybody isn't aware of it there, that this person actually hung out for a while after that meeting, hoping there, or probably in hopes that they would have reconvened the meeting. And so that person was hanging out, waiting for the meeting to get reconvened, which I believe it did not. So, because you guys were at the end of your meeting anyway, so,
it
But,
was very lucky that, I'm sorry, Tim, but it was very lucky that it was that meeting because it was like a off-cycle.
Well,
one
it was
and
shut
done.
down within seconds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
so
Very low attendance. Yeah.
nobody hung around there to view what
Right.
was on the screen.
But so that's why the procedures say if you have to end
End
the
it.
meeting, you're just rescheduling.
Yeah.
You're just,
Yeah.
you don't want to encourage
Okay.
it. At that point, you can't communicate with all the potential participants to let them know what's going on. So you shouldn't continue from an open meeting law perspective in person.
Okay, well, hopefully we don't have to go over the top on this. I just, when I see designated Zoom facilitator, I don't want to have that every single committee, if they opt to go with the Zoom option that now we're paying more and more. I mean, it may become a reality down the road there for the next budget cycle, but,
I hope not.
let's, hopefully we've helped.
I'd say about
heard
half our
this one.
boards have met and board members have been more than willing to take this on.
Right,
And we're
okay,
gonna have a training and I think it'll be fine.
okay.
Do you have anything to add, Lisa?
Well, I think the Zoom meetings have made the convenience of the meetings so much better for us. That, I mean, board members can go in remotely, so I would hate to see.
Well, I agree with you, Tim. It encourages some other people from the community, to
Yes.
participate
Yeah.
in board service. It allows people who are interested taxpayers to attend meetings when they can't be here physically.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of, I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And I'm definitely in favor of keeping our options the way they are in terms of virtual attendance.
I agree.
We haven't talked about it too, but having the recordings of the meetings. I've gone back several times to check on things and having those video recordings are really good.
Yeah. Okay, well, so thank you there for the update, Corinne.
You got it. Thank you all for helping me watch the Zoom screen.
All right. Okay, now we have training for board members here. Review the requirements and training opportunities for open meeting law, ethics, and Zoom.
So I'd briefly introduced, usually by now, we've distributed to everybody what the training options are. And this year, between the update with the open meeting law and the new ethics trainings and now the Zoom. I was waiting to see what all the options were. I was really hoping for like a one and done with,
With
but
one or the other.
yeah, but with all of the requirements, that's not really possible. Catherine is still gonna do the open meeting law training. It'll have a brief ethics overview. But the ethics component will not meet the requirements for the ethics commission. So if you are a municipal member subject to the ethics law, it's recommended that you have some training, but it's only required if you're a board that could potentially make a quasi judicial decision. So that would be you, the DRB, the Board of Abatement, and the Board of Civil Authority. I think I got them all. I
I
did.
think so.
So those boards, all members are required to take ethics training, and it has to be the training through the Ethics Commission. So what I was, if you're all on the same page with me, tomorrow I was going to send out an email to all boards that basically has what's in your packet, kind of explaining the different options that'll, for the majority of the boards, if you would attend the NRPC training. And then send your board Zoom facilitator to the Zoom training, you know, it should be good. If you're unlucky enough to be one of those quasi judicial boards, you'll be getting a separate email from me saying this is how you take the ethics training.
We don't have to serve on it twice if we're on two of them, do we?
Well, yeah, that's basically what happens, because unless we want to review the open meeting law policy, because that's a town policy. So there's the town policy that says you do the open meeting law training, and then there's the ethics training. And if you're lucky enough to be the select board chair, you have to take the state open meeting law training.
Which, by the way, just to let you all know there, I attended a meeting for 3 hours there about a week ago. And I can come to find out there that, it doesn't meet the credentials. Okay, so,
Yeah.
and it was a beautiful Saturday morning and, but anyway, so, yep. So I just,
So
I'm
you can
for it.
skip the NRPC meeting and take these other two.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so, no, that's fine. So you'll send out a,
Yeah, I'm regretful that it was just so simple in the past. This is the training, this is the
and that'll
date.
have, but these will have the dates on it there and whatever. Now, what happens there if you're out of town on that particular date?
Well, for the open meeting law training, I
I
think
know
with
that one's
the refresher, there's so many options. The other one's just a recorded,
just a recorded.
yep, it's just a recorded online thing. It
Okay, you
has,
don't get a certificate, our
Well,
taxpayers' dollars aren't paying for a certificate.
it's very glitchy. So I've put together some procedures. Those will come out with the email. And if you guys want, I'm willing to talk about an event. Maybe we have pizza, maybe we invite all the quasi judicial boards and we all watch it together. I don't,
I like pizza.
I'd be more than willing to organize something like that if that would be more palatable. It's a pretty dry 45-minute presentation, but.
That was no pun intended.
It's-
Okay. Yeah, well,
I-
I don't think that that's a bad idea either, but I believe that training there, I think Claire and I were talking about it there. I'll be out of town. For that particular one, but if it's just something there that I can go online there and whatever.
Yep.
Come back and,
Should download it on your thing before you hop on the plane.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. 3-hour flight. So, okay.
So as it stands, I'm gonna send out that
Yep,
document to all board members and then let the ethics group know what their procedures are. Okay.
perfect. Okay, on to Station Road, confirm our next steps there for the O'Neill property sale. Harry, you wanna just update us? I know that we had talked about this previously there when we were doing this. This has to happen simultaneously as far as with the transfer of the property to O'Neill, and then we have to get in turn the easement,
Yes,
correct?
so I presume that Michael Parent's going to represent the town at the sale. It'll be his obligation to draft a warranty deed or well, if we'll use a warranty deed for a municipality, he may, or use some other kind of deed. But the deed itself to the buyer, Mr. O'Neill, will contain in it the reservation of an easement that the town can rely upon in perpetuity. It will run with the land and forever bind with the property, the right to enter upon it, to access, repair, maintain, replace, etc. The water services that are within the conveyed parcel. And it's common way of ensuring that those rights are reserved back to a seller when it's conveyed. So it will be one document that contains all the easements that were that the approved sale was conditioned upon when we look at our warning.
Okay,
So do you want me to contact Taryn to get that rolling, or because you've already had these conversations with him, do you wanna? For me, this is more of a mechanics, the voters approved it, we're gonna do it, it's just a matter of
Yeah,
what next steps you would prefer.
and, you know, what Mike was. I'm happy to.
Okay.
You wanna reach out with him?
that'd be perfect.
I'll give him a buzz.
All right. Thank you, Harry.
Mhm.
All right, on to correspondence here. We have FEMA invitation to the risk map review meeting. So,
This is on Danielle Turin's radar. She has confirmed with me she is going to go. She also asked if you all were aware and if anybody else from the town was going to be in attendance. It's a pretty big deal.
in attendance,
I told her I didn't know, and it was on the select board agenda.
that is tomorrow
I don't,
tomorrow at 9
oh
AM.
goodness. That's not likely then.
I will not attend.
Yeah, that's-
I may be able to attend.
I will note that this is River Reaches, you know.
Yeah.
Do you
So,
think it's something that the town? Do you know at all if this is something that pertains to North Hero?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
specific to North Hill.
yeah.
yeah, it is, you know, I think the flood map we've all been waiting for out here in the islands, is the one that's not focused on the rivers, but the one that's focused on that
On the-
other water near us, Lake Champlain. That's the one that seems to be doing most of the flood impact.
I think it's the updated flood maps that have been promised for the last couple of years.
Correct.
Finally getting to look at them.
Yeah,
And is it focusing on, this appears to say it's focusing on engineering analysis on several river reaches in your community. So is this lake in or is this river out?
We don't see it as how we don't have any rivers. I think it's just the lake as far as North Hero is concerned.
I don't know why I would call it river breaches.
Because they probably didn't change the verbiage, and
Right.
they just copied the letters to all the towns and just changed what they had to.
But we'll find out when we attend.
Will
Thank
be
you.
there?
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
here.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. Well.
Were you aware of this, Diana? What are you doing tomorrow morning?
well, actually, let's see here, tomorrow, well, 9 o'clock, there is, yoga, right? Tomorrow,
Yes,
so it's not like we could zoom from here.
I mean, I could set you up in the listers. Be all alone tomorrow in the town office, so I'll have to man the front counter.
Well, we can keep
But
you
I-
company then,
Okay, we could
Uh,
set it right up on the zoning computer.
whatever, I mean,
Yeah.
If you're gonna be here, Carl, I'd be more than happy to join you.
all right,
Okay.
and I don't know what you're doing, Diana, if you wanna join us, feel free.
Thank you.
Okay, all right,
I'll
so,
send you.
all right, I'll be here at 9 o'clock. So, all right, then we have the Quentin request to eliminate zoning appeal. I would like to kick this back to the planning commission, for their review. And then their recommendation if that is okay with the board. Any discussion on this? I have spoken with Andy on this there and he doesn't see any issue there kicking it back there as far as to,
No,
I would just like to clarify, we're talking about the broad issue, not this specific case.
the broad issue,
Right, the broad issue of whether somebody should be refunded.
how that,
fee
yes,
If the zoning administrator decision gets overruled by the DRB.
right. And one thing here in my conversations that came up is perhaps both parties are asked for, let's say, $150, that's either escrowed or kept in that account there, and then whoever wins gets their money back to them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't wanna make it too complicated, but then again, it'd be nice to have some clarification on it.
I think, one comment I would make also too is that I think refunds of any fees need to be approved by the select board. And so if this does become a policy, we should be cognizant of that and try and build a carve out there.
Well, just to be clear, the select board is responsible for the entire fee structure.
Right,
And,
right.
you know, planning commission will make recommendations, so along with the DRB.
Yeah, I would like to get a recommendation there from the planning commission on this. I will also add to this there that anytime this stuff comes in front of the boards, whether it be the DRB or the planning commission or whatever, there is a cost associated with it all. And, you know, we could probably eliminate all fees there if we, jacked up the prices there of everything, of the DRB and of the planning commission there, all their budgets, if we jack that up really high there, and we're all gonna pay for it. But in this particular case here, I just wanna say that, I wanna hear back from the planning commission there too, so that I have a little better idea. I've read through all this stuff here and whatever, and I would just like to have the recommendation there of the planning commission.
Yeah, well, it'll be on our next agenda.
Can
Okay.
I make a comment? I
Sure.
know you're not gonna talk about this particular one, but building off this particular issue that came in front of you here, sometimes, and I think the planning commission would take this into account, it's not a question of making a wrong judgment. It's a question of, are the regulations clear enough? Us, and that's why we're working closely with Andy, the planning commission, and the DRB is in making recommendations to be a little more detailed in some instances. Sometimes there's a definition lacking that needs to be added to the regulations that we're discovering. And so intelligent people can look at things that are vague and see two different things.
Right.
And it's not something that's wrong. It's just that it's not clear. And so, again, that's, I think, what comes up in a lot of instances.
I think I'd just like to say I agree with that. I mean, it's kind of the hallmark of my profession. There's law that has been well settled for eons and new laws that are cropping up all the time. And if you get a lower court decision that you don't like, you have appellate rights, and there are fees associated with filing an appeal. And regardless of who wins on that appeal, the Vermont Superior Court does not refund the fees that it collects, and neither does the Vermont Supreme Court. The appellate fees are the appellate fees. The litigants have an opportunity to get a second opinion about whether the case was adjudicated appropriately at the lower level, and if it's not, case is overturned, essentially goes back down. At least the Vermont Superior Court and the Supreme Court do not hold policies where appellate fees are refunded.
Okay. All right, well then we'll wait to hear back from you, Andy.
Okay.
And anytime you wanna chime in there too, Diana, just give me a call,
Okay.
okay? All right. So we took care of that, and then we have in front of us there the DRB hearing notices there, which Giro Rocca have been taken off. Until we get some blessing from above. Anyway, so going back to liquor licenses. Thank you all.
I'll make the motion that we recess the select board meeting and then liquor control approximately 6:22.
Second.
Joe seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We are now in liquor control board. So in front of us there, we have Lake Country Provisions. And we have Celtic 17 Hospitality. We have a second-class liquor license, tobacco and tobacco endorsement for Lake Country Provisions. And we have a first-class restaurant and bar license and a third-class restaurant and bar for Celtic 17 Hospitality.
I'll make a motion that we approve the second-class liquor license, the tobacco license, and the tobacco endorsement for Lake Country Provisions.
Second.
Joe seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those
Also make a
opposed?
motion, sorry,
Motion carries.
sorry, Mr. Chairman.
That's all right.
Also make a motion that the first-class restaurant and bar license and the third-class restaurant and bar license for Celtic 17 Hospitality is approved.
Do I have a second?
That.
All right, well, I'll give that one to Claire, Joe.
Okay.
All right,
I don't want to be greedy.
that's all right. So Claire seconded that one. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to adjourn liquor control and resume the select board meeting at approximately 6:24.
Second.
Joe seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries. We are now back into the select board meeting at 6:24 PM. And at this point in time, if there is no other business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, Tim makes the motion, Harry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Our meeting is now adjourned at 6:24 PM. Thank you all.